All right, guys, so before we get started, I just want to look at, we're going to do dividing with decimals today, and this seems to be something that's really, really confusing for people. So here is 8/10 divided by 2/10, okay? And what this means is this means how many of these can we get in these? So if I'm looking at tenths and I have this picture here, 8/10 looks like something like this. So this is 1 out of 10. 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Here's 8 out of 10, okay? Now, what this problem is asking us is how many 2/10 do we have? So then I just look. I have 1, I have 2, I have 3, I have 4. Another way to look at this equation is to say, so my answer would be 4. Another way to look at this equation is in money. If I have 80 cents, how many groups of 20 cents can I get? I can get 4 groups. So ignore my Christmas colors. For some reason, I was feeling Christmassy today. So that's just something to think about when we're dividing with decimals. We're really just dividing, it's just kind of like smaller amounts. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is dividing decimals by a whole number. So if I have 18 and 2/10 divided by 14, okay, remember our first number is the number that goes into the house. So I'm going to draw my little division house. 14 is the divisor, it's going to go on the outside. 18 and 2/10 is going to go on the inside. The trick with dividing decimals is pretty simple. All I have to do is I have to move this decimal place directly up here. And then from there, I don't even have to worry about it. Then I can just kind of like pretend it doesn't exist. So then I'm going to look at how many times does 14 go into 18. So I'm just now going to do good old-fashioned long division. 14 goes into 18 one time. So remember, I'm going to put that 1 over the 8 because 14 cannot go into 1, but it can go into 18. So that 1 is going to go over the 8. Remember, I'm going to multiply next. Remember, it's divide, multiply next. Put the 14 underneath, subtract. That's going to give me 4. And then I'm going to bring down the 2. How many times can 14 go into 42? Well, I'm going to say 3 times. 3 times 14 is just that, 42. And I have 0, and my answer is 1 3/10. So what this means is if I have 18 and 2/10, how many groups of 14 can I get? I can get 1 3/10 group. And you can kind of see that if I just look at the problem. 14 can go into 18 one time with a little bit left over. So this definitely makes sense. Now, what if we're dividing a decimal by a decimal? Oh no, let's see here. So a big thing when we're dividing a decimal by a decimal is my dividend cannot have a decimal in it. So let's try this. Let's try 18 and 2/10 divided by 1 4/10. Now, before I get started, I'm going to look. If I'm just pretending that I don't have these numbers, these decimals here, what would be 18 divided by 1? It'd probably be about 18. So I'm going to just guesstimate that my answer is going to be about 18. Okay. So here we go. We're going to set up our problem. And I know that I have the dividend on the inside of the house here, the divisor on the outside of the house, but we have a huge problem. We cannot have this decimal point here. That cannot work. So what I have to do is I have to get rid of this decimal place. And the way I do that is I can simply just jump it on over. And if I jump it on over on this side, I have to jump it on over on this side. And what I'm actually doing is I'm actually timesing both sides by 10. And I can do that because that basically is keeping my problem even. I'm not changing anything. I'm just adjusting both sides by 10. So then what this problem now becomes is 182 divided by 14. So same thing, I'm going to set us up 14 on the outside, 182 on the inside. We're going to divide and we are going to get 13. Okay, really similar to this, except for we didn't have this decimal point. We moved them both out of the way. Now, what if you have to move a decimal point over more? So what if I have something like, let's do another color here. What if I have something like 2 45 hundredths divided by 7 thousandths? Okay, now, if I were to set this up, this number would be on the outside of our house. And remember, I cannot have a decimal point here. I cannot. So I have to figure out how many times I need to move this decimal point so that way there's no decimal point on this side. So there have a couple options. I can count jumps. I can say 1 jump, 2 jump, 3 jumps is what it would take. Okay, so if I do 3 jumps here, then I have to do 3 jumps here. 1 jump, 2 jump. Oh no, I only have 2 numbers. What do I do next? Well, I have to just put another 0 there. So really what I'm doing is I'm timesing both sides by 100. And my new problem comes out to be 2,450 divided by 7, right? Because we did those jumps, the decimal place is over here. I don't have to say divided by 007 because now that the decimal point's on that side, I'm good to go. So then I'm going to rewrite my equation now. And my division problem is going to look like this. 7 on the outside and 2,450, the dividend on the inside. I'm going to go through and divide. 7 doesn't go into 2, but it does go into 24. It goes in 3 times. 3 times 7 is 20. Not 27, 24. Subtract, we get 0. I'm going to bring down that 5. 7 does not go into 5. So remember, I have to make sure I have a 0 here, okay? Because 7 does not go into 5. Bring down another 0. 7 does indeed go into 50, though. Just kidding, I made a big mistake. 7 times. We're just going to erase this. Sorry, made a big mistake. Yeah. 7 times 3 is actually 21, you guys. My bad. This is why I need you in class. Okay, 3, and I'm going to bring down this 5. There we go. 7 goes into 35. 5 times 7 is 7. Or 5 times 7 is 35. Bring down the 0. Now I have this other 0 here. I have to bring down and account for. And now there's a 0 on that end. So my answer is 350 would be the answer. And now I don't have to worry about putting any more decimals back in. This is the correct answer to this equation. All right, and that is the basics on dividing a decimal and a whole number and dividing a decimal into a decimal. The biggest thing to remember, you guys, is you cannot have a decimal in this place. And if you do have a decimal in here, it needs to just go straight up. All right, good luck with your Khan Academy assignments.